Hello there, welcome to this Advective weather video. Well, it's the first day of spring, first day of tornado season, and we have a multi-day tornado outbreak that's likely to happen today, tomorrow, and Friday. As you can see, the peak risk level is a 4 out of 5 risk, that's for tomorrow. We're going through all 3 days, as well as the other dangerous weather hazards for the United States during the next several days in the course of this video. Now, this is likely to be a widespread outbreak of tornadoes and other forms of severe weather. We could have some exceptionally large hail today, and quite large hail still possible tomorrow as well. Today's risk is an enhanced level 3 out of 5 for all hazards. Tomorrow is a moderate 4 out of 5 risk for strong tornadoes and damaging winds only. The hail is a lesser risk tomorrow at 3 out of 5. And Friday is a slight 2 out of 5 risk, primarily for damaging winds and a few tornadoes, less likely to be strong at this time. There is some uncertainty with that. Now, according to the National Weather Service Little Rock, they've been very concerned about this event in the lead up to it, and they say that some of the tornadoes could be long-tracked or violent, particularly in Arkansas, where some of the best conditions for long-tracking tornadic supercells will be present today and tomorrow. But the greatest potential violent tornadoes at this time is believed to be tomorrow. If that's still the case, you'll have to watch our video update tomorrow to see how things have changed. Now, here's the current setup for today. Low pressure system over central Arkansas moving northwards, creating a zone favourable for severe weather along a stalled boundary from northeast Texas through to central Tennessee. Along that boundary, quite substantial risk for flash flooding. We're going through the flash flooding threat for the next several days at the end of this video. Now, here's today's risk in full with city locations included. Earlier today there was some hail and gusty winds in Dallas, might have been some minor damage to weak things such as fences, but the risk has already moved mostly through Dallas. They've cut the risk back slightly since earlier updates, and today, well, at this point we just have an enhanced risk from far southeastern Oklahoma, far northeastern Texas, through to northeast Mississippi and southwest Tennessee. Now, going into the individual parameters, you can see that that entire enhanced risk is for strong tornadoes. 10% hatched risk indicates that a strong tornado or two will be possible anywhere within that risk region, most likely during the late afternoon and early evening today. The risk of a strong tornado will decrease into the overnight hours, but will still be possible through the night. Looking at the wind risk, primarily in the eastern half of that enhanced risk, and you'll note it's not hatched, meaning that wind gusts are likely to remain below hurricane force, although there may be 1 or 2 storms that manage to get to that strength. Hail is going to be a big thing today, with some scientists on social media commenting that it could be an exceptionally significant day for hail. Hail up to and in excess of 3 inches will be possible with some of the supercells today. Now, looking at the HRRR, this is the latest modelled from just a couple of hours ago. You can see those supercells happening primarily across Arkansas, northern Mississippi, southwest Tennessee during the late afternoon and evening hours today. Some of those, particularly the ones in the southern part of the risk, may be tornadic with potential for strong tornadoes, but what's most likely to happen is that the majority of these storms will be producing very significant hail, which is likely to cause car windshield loss, potential roof damage, and also damage to anything else that's susceptible, such as greenhouses, trampolines, that sort of thing. If you have anything outside that's fragile, and especially pets and children, you want to keep them inside as soon as a severe thunderstorm warning is issued, to protect them from what could be quite a dangerous day for hail. And of course, you want to take necessary action if a tornado warning is issued too. Now on to tomorrow, which is expected to be the main day of this 3-day outbreak. A moderate 4 out of 5 risk from Dallas through Shreveport and Arklatex, just shy of Little Rock. Now, this is a day 2 outlook. It will likely change tomorrow, but this is the broad region where conditions are expected to be most favourable for strong tornadoes. As you can see, that moderate risk has a large 15 hatched risk for tornadoes, which indicates that strong tornadoes are quite likely in this region. It's not the highest risk level by any means, but this is day 2. If conditions change, there could be an upgrade tomorrow. Around that, a much larger, enhanced risk for strong tornadoes from the I-35 corridor, I believe, just north of Austin, through to western Mississippi and Memphis, including Little Rock, Shreveport, Dallas. Tomorrow is also going to be a big day for damaging wind with a hatched 45% risk area. That's a moderate risk. That is quite substantial. It's about as high as it goes for wind, and there could be some significant wind damage from hurricane force wind gusts, regardless of how many tornadoes we get tomorrow. Hail will again be a big factor tomorrow with a hatched 30% risk region across much of the same area. Hail will be most favourable in the west, decreasing in size farther east as you move into conditions less favourable for hail development. Now here is the HRRR for tomorrow, starting at 6 AM Central Standard Time and going into the event. You can see there are some supercells in the open warm sector in that moderate risk region. It's hard to know at this time how many there will be because the subtle features that produce those supercells that are responsible for the dangerous tornadoes, you can't really tell where they're going to set up until the day of. Later on, you have the front firing through central Texas and then sweeping eastwards. At first, that's most likely going to be a damaging wind and large hail threat. Some of the hail could be very large along the line initially. Unlikely to be tornadoes out west, but entirely possible. The farther east that line comes, the more favourable it will be for tornadoes and the less favourable it will be for hail. So the later on into the evening you go, the more likely there is to be a tornado on the part of the line coming towards your location. Look at how far east and west you are and take the necessary precautions. Of course, if you are in any sort of tornado risk, you should have a plan in case tornado warning is issued for you, and we'll go through that in a moment. Now, day 3 is currently only a slight risk. 2 days to go could well be upgraded to an enhanced if we gain better confidence in what's going to happen. Currently just expected to be a non-significant risk for tornadoes and wind. That means wind gusts below hurricane force but above severe limits, so 60-70 miles an hour, and a few tornadoes. 1 or 2 of which might be strong, but currently that's not the wording used by National Weather Service. Now, we don't have the HRRR beyond 2 days, so here's the NAN 3 kilometre. For Friday, you can see that the line that forms in Texas tomorrow continues unabated through the night into the morning hours, producing significant severe weather in Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, potentially into Georgia by the end of the event. Now, it's rather uncertain how far out this out. There is some suggestion from other models that it could be quite more dramatic than what you're seeing here, and you'll want to check in later to see what our ideas are tomorrow and, of course, on the day of, when we have the best idea of what will happen. What you can do with this dangerous tornado outbreak. First of all, know what the watches and warnings mean. There will be a lot of thunderstorm watches. Well, no, there'll be a lot of thunderstorm warnings today. There may be a thunderstorm watch, but they're likely to be tornado watches due to the threat of tornadoes. Lots of thunderstorm warnings, however, for that large and dangerous hail, and do take shelter when they're issued, especially if they have the considerable or particularly dangerous damage tags. That indicates a particularly strong thunderstorm, which is more dangerous than usual. When we get that tornado watch issued, you need to know what to do, know your safe place, know how to get there. And when a tornado warning is issued, of course, immediately take your action plan and seek shelter as soon as possible. Now, there is quite a lot of issue with tornado warnings in the south in general because a lot of people live in mobile homes or manufactured housing, which, as you can see from this graphic from FEMA, the worst options for tornado shelter. If at all possible, you should get to a well-constructed building or a basement. The best option is, of course, a tornado shelter or a FEMA safe room. If you have a friend nearby that has one of those, try to make a plan to get to them. If it will take too long to get to them after a warning is issued, travel when the watch is issued. Better to be safe than sorry, especially with overnight tornadoes. Here's a graphic from National Weather Service Little Rock today on the plans to do. If you're in a mobile home or a manufactured home, I strongly recommend you pause, read this, go through the recommended 3-step plan, and put it into action when a tornado watch is issued for your location. As they say, you can replace your possessions, but you cannot replace a life. And as I've said, we're expecting overnight tornadoes, so Getting a warning could indeed save your life, especially as some of them are expected to be strong, if not violent. Many ways to get warnings through mobile device. Of course, you can use a laptop, TV. You shouldn't rely on outdoor sirens, but as a last resort, they can work. If you have sirens that go for your location, leave the window open, if at all possible. No weather radio is the best solution. Very good at waking you up in the night, but the key point is these all need to be charged, so they're not going to run out of battery in the night. You want the best chance of waking up if a tornado is coming towards your house. Now that's all for the severe weather. We're moving on to the winter storms. We're coming to the tail end of what has been a fairly historic winter storm series across western and southwestern parts of the United States. There may be more to come in the future, but we've got a break at least after today and tomorrow. Feel free to pause and look through if you're in the area, but we've been covering this quite extensively, and I would hope that most people in this area are familiar with what to do after days and weeks of significant snowfall in the mountain areas, and at times to lower levels. What has not been happening much throughout this winter is snowstorms in the northeast. Away from the Great Lakes region, quite a lot of people feel starved of their usual winter snow. That may be changing. There's been some snow recently, and there's more on the way, with this system that's producing the significant severe weather threat in the plains going to bring, unfortunately, ice storm conditions to some parts of the northeast US, but also winter storm conditions with snow likely. Again, feel free to pause and read in detail, or head to the Weather Prediction Center website for more details on your local information. Of course, go to your local National Weather Service office's webpage. Here is a weather model. The NAM low resolution for the whole nation for the next 3.5 days. You can see at first there's snow across the southwest and Four Corners region. That system becomes the severe weather threat tomorrow into Friday, and then as that moves off, you get quite substantial snowfall on the western and northern sides of that. Once it hits the warmer air mass to the eastern side, unfortunately you get periods of freezing rain and possibly some sleet as well. To know what your local hazard is going to be from this winter storm, obviously pay attention to updates from your local office. They will have the best information for you. Here are the current hazards warnings issued. Because the event is in the next day or two, all the warnings are in place for the southwest. There aren't many warnings in place for the northwest and midwest yet. You can see they've just started issuing some winter storm watches for the Central Plains, Colorado and Kansas for this system. In the next couple of days, that will spread all the way to the US East Coast, and as I mentioned, some of them may be ice storm watches and warnings, unfortunately. Now, winter storm warnings in place at the moment, no blizzard warnings, thankfully, but with how much snow is falling, considerable travel problems have been occurring for some time, and unfortunately will continue to occur in the southwest, and obviously when that system moves into the northeast, there will be considerable travel problems pretty much nationwide. Along that corridor from the southwest to the northeast. And when that heavy snow arrives, you don't want to be travelling. Plan ahead, start being prepared now, get anything you need such as prescriptions, medication, food, milk, etc. And just be aware that winter weather is coming, even though it's the first day of spring. Of course, ice storms unfortunately will be an impact with this system. Look at those things, and of course there's additional information that you'll be able to get from your local TV channel or weather office. Main thing is you want to be prepared in advance, because it can be up to a week before travel is fully open and safe again after a significant ice storm. Shouldn't be too significant in this situation, but main thing is expect to lose power and expect to not be able to travel for several days. Prepare accordingly. Of course, after the winter storm, if you get power outage, be careful with those heat sources. Don't want a child or a pet or someone else who's being careless causing a fire by knocking over a candle or space heater. And if you're using a generator to get your own power, make sure that those fumes are not coming inside your house. Once you're safe and warm, check on your neighbours. Always helps, and if necessary, contact the authorities so they can try and help. Now, moving on to the severe flooding, which could be a potentially life-threatening situation for the next several days. We have a moderate 3 out of 4 risk for excessive rainfall tomorrow, slight risks today and Friday, due to multiple rounds of intense rain associated with the system that is producing the severe weather and the winter storm. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of rain recently and soils across the region are saturated, meaning it won't take as much rain as usual to result in a flash flood, and it could become quite severe if the heavy thunderstorm rains persist for a long period of time. The worst of the flooding should be happening tomorrow, but life-threatening flash floods will be locally possible in all 3 days, and there's a small chance that the risk level could be upgraded tomorrow if things change. But for now, a moderate and a slight, that's 2 out of 4, 3 out of 4, 2 out of 4. But don't pay attention to the numbers. If there is a flood in your local area, take the necessary action. And here's how you'll know. Flood watches are already in place for part of this region. Those are likely to expand during the next several days. And there are already some flood warnings in place from the warm front's impacts today. Rain has already started in some parts of this region, but these are likely to become much more widespread, and particularly for urban areas in the next several days. When a flood warning is issued for your location and you know you're in a low-lying area, seek shelter by getting to higher ground. That's the safe place for a flood. Now, you may have a problem where you need to be inside for severe weather reasons and outside to get to higher ground for flooding reasons. Generally, flooding is more dangerous than a weak severe thunderstorm, but in all cases, a tornado takes priority. Hopefully, we don't have people having to choose between escaping floodwaters and escaping a tornado. That would be a worst-case scenario for this event. Nonetheless, follow all official guidance and look to your local National Weather Service office for the best details on what to do with this dangerous multiple threat event. If you're out and about because you're farther north and away from the severe weather threats, but you have a flash flood in your area, if you see that water crossing the roadway, do not drive into it. If a warning is issued, of course, get to higher ground. And if you're in an area as it starts to flood, get to higher ground regardless. Don't wait for someone to tell you to do so. Best way to stay safe is to stay informed by monitoring your local media and, of course, social media. Saying goes, when it floods, turn around, don't drown. Flooding is one of the deadliest weather impacts in the world, and it's definitely the deadliest in the US for a given year on average. Lots of people underestimate the power of water. Don't let you be one of those people. Finally, fire weather is going to have a moderate impact for the next couple of days. Red flag warnings in place for parts of New Mexico and western Texas. And also you can see those flood watches already in place there to the east. Today we have a fire risk from El Paso up to just the northwestern part of the Texas Panhandle, and including Amarillo, Lubbock, Midland. Critical level 2 out of 3. Not expected to be any tri-thunderstorms with this, so just fire from artificial sources. But please be careful, even on a smaller risk day where it's not a huge story. It only takes one fire in the wrong place to cause serious impacts. Tomorrow, that fire risk shifts southeastward. Only an elevated risk for Lubbock, no risk for Amarillo at this time. That could change. But Midland, San Angelo, San Antonio, and other regions across the Texas-Mexico border, critical fire risk tomorrow. Please be careful with any flames and hot objects outside. Don't park your cars next to grassland, for example. As a hot exhaust can cause fire. That's something not many people think of when they're driving around on days like this. It's a quick update for the warning reminders. There's been too many red flag warnings for this part of the country in recent weeks and months, so hopefully you know what to do. Fire weather watch, fire red flag warning, and if you need any additional information, visit weather.gov and look to the fire information or of course your local National Weather Service office. Now, it's been quite a long update video, an awful lot of weather going on across the US today, but I hope that wherever you are, you're staying safe and up to date with the threats that weather is bringing. Once again, go to your local National Weather Service office or the Storm Prediction Centre website for the latest up-to-date information. And for further information, go to your local TV or radio channels or social media and look up the necessary hashtags or search terms. Thank you very much. Have a good, safe day.